Why do I make political videos? Why have I made political videos in the past, in the present, in the future? And it's because it's an area where I feel relatively confident that I am a political junkie. I've spent a lot of time on that. I know more than other people. I have original takes. I have unique takes, and people like that. And people, what I'm looking for is to have people say, you're intelligent. Because if I was just doing math equations, I could spend some time, I could invest some time in learning how to do calculus, and I could try to impress some people doing calculus or math equations, something analytical. And I've seen other people do that. I've seen other people do, sort of graduate level math, and I've been impressed by that, and other people are impressed by that. And then we say, okay, that person is smart, and maybe there's some validation that comes out of that. Maybe they don't care what people think about them. Maybe they're just enjoying math in itself. And I think I do enjoy politics in itself, and I think that's why why I have knowledge, why I have wisdom, why I'm trained, and why there's a certain geometry to politics, right? So in every political debate or discussion or scenario, it's like an object. And you can look at that object and you can analyze that object and you can describe that object. And in the same way that an artist would be able to tell you, okay, so this person is using this type of perspective and they're using this shading and this type of contour, and they could give you a kind of art. I sound like a walrus over here or something. They could give you some sort of critique that would be intelligent because they have the vocabulary, they understand the visual spatial geometry. And then a mathematician understands this kind of abstract geometry that understands the equations and recognizes them and can compute them and easily manipulate them. And an athlete, he can recognize a type of spatial dynamics, right, as opposed to statics. And of course, like, you could say that a movie is a dynamic picture, but the body, utilizing the body in an active rather than a passive perceptive role, but you're actually in an active perceptive role, in a reactive role in athleticism. So there's a certain geometry that comes with that. There's a certain, of course, I'm putting this all in mathematical language. The term geometry refers to, okay, we have different dimensions. We have different axes, right? We have different dimensions, different aspects. And so I'm putting everything in mathematical terms. But I understand political geometry. I understand the different shapes and the different forms, and I can manipulate something. And I have a better feel, I have a better grasp for these things. And I can kind of spontaneously, extemporaneously speak about politics, and I feel like I'm making progress. And I have this sense that I am teaching people, and I'm bringing new perspectives. Because people tell me this. People get angry at me, they get upset at me, they say all kinds of nasty things about me, but at the same time, there are other people who say, okay, well, you're interesting, this is a new perspective. Even if I disagree with you, I haven't heard this before. And you have a certain energy to you. You're excited, and you're excitable, and you're exciting, and this is energetic, and I'm feeling this, and I'm inspired by this, and maybe I'm going to take it and go in a different direction with it. So that's the element that I'm enjoying. But there's a problem with all of this, especially when I rationalize it and I say, okay, well, politics is self-defeating, don't be political, be post-ideological, radical friendship extremism. And I talk about all of that. There's a fundamental contradiction there where I still am engaging in politics in some way. But at the same time, I'm saying, don't engage in politics, don't be political. There is this contradictory nature, which I would relate to this Nietzschean perspective on sexuality, that sexuality is fundamentally perverse. Like, sexuality cannot be Apollonian, it cannot be, what do they call it, Leave It to Beaver style, two different beds, and it's all choreographed, and it's very standard. I'm not saying that things can't be that way, but I'm saying that's not the fundamental core essence of what the thing is. You can put it in that box, you can put it into monogamy, you can put in all those things. I'm not saying that's bad, but I'm saying there is a fundamental Dionysian element that's implicit there that exists, and it has a form, and it has a reality to it. And if you just deny that and say, well, it doesn't exist, what you end up with people is saying, oh, well, we can just categorize all the genders, and whether is someone panromantic? Are they aromantic? Are they pansexual, asexual? Are they, there's the sexuality component, there's the gender component, there's the attraction component. We can divide all these up, and we can come up with a perfect syllogistic encapsulation of human sexuality. And it's like human sexuality in itself is Faustian. It wants to go outside the bounds. It wants to do something perverse. It wants to conquer it. It wants to take two human bodies which are separate, and it wants to unify those bodies violently to create new life. And that's dramatic. And that is something which almost destroys the identity. And it's traumatic, and it's uncontrollable, and it's outside of our conscious perception because it's preconscious. It's an animal act. So, I don't even know why I'm bringing this up, but I'm trying to relate it to politics in the sense of I can try to coldly, rationally say that I'm engaging in political speech because I'm trying to dissuade people from politics, because I'm trying to say, hey, see, here's the reason why politics is a game and you're a pawn, and maybe you need to play a different game. Maybe you need to play God's game. Maybe you need to at least be self-interested. I think being a political actor, it means you are serving a larger purpose than yourself, but often I think that purpose is bad or self-defeating or illusory, or I guess we have an abortion debate running around in our country, and what is the reality of that debate for you? People rationalize it, people justify it, and I'm not saying, I'm a fan of killing fetuses, but there are strong feelings on both sides. And so I try to raise people to the level of self-interest and say, look, being involved in this team sport, it's appealing to you in the way that pornography is appealing, right? Pornography is appealing because it taps into your instincts. It taps into your sexual instincts. But ultimately, it's illusory, it's a fantasy, it's a waste of your time and your sexual energy, and you need to divest from that pornography, and you need to get into the real world, and you need to be self-interested. But I think I've committed a mistake in doing that, because I think it's an effective form of argument. I think it works on people. I think people are amenable to it, and I think I've reached a lot of people with that argument. But that argument in itself is flawed and limited, and I think it does make a certain amount of progress, and I think it is something that more people should be saying, and more people should be pursuing that form of argument. But I think there needs to be a next level, and I feel a little bit guilty because what I've done is I've attracted a lot of energy which is very self-interested, which is very selfish, which is very narcissistic, which says, it's all about me, and politics is stupid because I'm not gaining personal power out of it, and so I'm going to focus everything on my personal power. That's not what life's about. That's not what love is about. That's not why we're created. That's not why we're here. The human being is meant to serve, and you can't love yourself. And anyone who tells you that you can love yourself is selling you another lie. It's not a political lie, but it is a lie. You can't love yourself because love is necessarily selfless. So people don't even have an understanding what love is, and they like to justify and say, oh, well, in order to love other people, I have to love myself first. And I hear what the message is being said there, but I think there's a trap that people fall into where they think, okay, well, first I'm going to love myself, and then eventually I'm going to start loving others. Once I sufficiently love myself, and I have enough self-esteem, and I like myself, and I think well of myself, and I'm really self-absorbed, only then am I going to move on and start loving others. Once I'm sufficiently built up in my own self-love, then I can start loving other people. And I hope that for some people, that message can be a stepping stone to something beyond. I hope people really do move beyond that stage, because you can't be there forever. And if you are there forever, then it's not good. That's what life is about, progressing. It's about moving forward, and it's not about being stuck in that stage of immaturity. We want to be in that continuous movement. We want to have attachment. We want to have a connection and tethering to the highest level. And that's why God is important, because, you can say, well, what about good enough? What about, okay, you're saying God's perfect, eternal, infinite. Why do we care about that? Why can't I just have a 9-to-5 job, take care of my family and my friends, and just do good enough? Right now, a lot of people come to me and they say, well, I'm sleeping around, or I'm watching porn, and I don't have a lot of friends, and I don't have a lot of money, and not a lot of good things happening in my life. I'm not happy with my parents. I hate my family, or I hate some of my, my father, or I hate my mother. And so I have all these really bad problems. And so wouldn't it be nice if I was just good enough? Wouldn't it be nice if I had all these techniques to love myself and to just feel good all the time? And then, where I have a good relationship with my family, and I have a good job, and wouldn't that be a step up? Wouldn't that be a stage up? And I agree. I agree that's a better thing. I don't want to prevent people from getting to that position. But I think there's a lot of deception that comes in if we think that's the highest stage, if we think that's what life is all about. It's just about having good relationships with your family. We can try, but sometimes some of that's outside of our control. And I think we should try, and I think it's worthy to try, but I think we have to recognize that, life isn't complete. When you have good relationships with your family, that doesn't mean life is over and you can just die happy. You can, but life isn't about being happy. Happiness is an emotion, and emotions are meant to inspire us and to provoke us and to move us forward and to change us from the current situation. If you don't feel any emotions, you're depressed. And if you're depressed, you're lying in bed all day. You're not making changes. You're not a go-getter. You're not making things happen. You're not learning. You're not growing. You're not challenging yourself. You're not struggling. You're not learning new things. So we want emotions. We want to have our emotions drive us forward. But the purpose of life isn't to achieve an emotion. Emotions are not an end in themselves. Emotions are not a goal. Happiness is not a good goal. It's not a good goal. I want to be happy. That's not a good goal. There's no quality or aspect of the self which is good in itself, because the self in itself is not good. The self is not justifying itself. If you say, well, I'm good and I'm strong and I'm happy and I'm beautiful and I'm whatever I am, that's not good enough, because being self-contained in yourself, good, having these values don't come from you. They come from God. And so if you're always concerned with hoarding these values and putting these values in yourself for yourself, and you're never connected to that highest purpose. And I'm not saying I do this all the time, or I'm not a hypocrite, or I'm not a bad person, or I'm not a narcissist, or I don't have these flaws. It's not about me saying that I'm better than other people, but it is about saying that I think I've engaged in all the things that I'm critiquing. I'm critiquing them harshly because it's self-criticism. I have been criticized. I criticize myself, and as a result, I criticize others. Judge not lest ye be judged really is talking about if you're a very judgmental person of yourself, you're going to be a judgmental person of others, and vice versa. If you're very judgmental, if you say, oh, I'm terrible because I'm not a millionaire, and why even bother living, then you're going to look around at other people who aren't millionaires, and you're going to say, well, your life is worthless, right? So there's a flaw there. There's a defect. There's something to be improved upon. And I think that all the things that I've criticized, all the things that I'm criticizing are not purely outward criticisms. They are not purely criticisms of other people. They are criticisms of myself that I share in common with other people. They are criticisms of myself that I share with other people. And so when I'm criticizing other people and people come to me and they say, yeah, but aren't you in some ways guilty of all the sins that you're describing that are out in the world? Yes, every bad thing that other people do, I partake in that to some extent or in some form. Even if it looks very different on the outside, it has a similar root cause. So what I've done is I've particularly attracted a lot of people to my channel, and not all of them. Some people I've met are very good, and I want to be surrounded by people who are better than myself, who are further along. I want mentors. I want people who are older than myself. I want to surround myself with people who have life experience, people who are further along than myself, people I can learn from. That would be better for me than surrounding myself with people who are younger, less experienced, less along the path, who look up to me as a mentor. I have to interact less with those people if I'm going to grow, and I have to interact with them in a different way. I can't be dependent upon, and I can't learn from, and I can't hold up as a model, and I can't be mentored by people who are younger, less educated, less experienced, less wise, less mature. I can't do that. And the fact that I have done that in the past, and I might continue to do it in the future, that's a flaw. That's something I need to work on. But I've attracted a particular mistake, this mistake of, okay, I'm above politics, but I'm engaging in politics because I feel confident in that, because it attracts viewers, because people validate me, they call me intelligent, they say, wow, you have great political takes, never heard this before, you're such a smart guy. And that makes me feel happy, right? But happiness should not be the goal of my life. And I want to take a step back and say that, yes, I can continue to grow my YouTube channel. I can continue to engage with politics. I can do that. I'm intelligent with regard to politics. I have that capacity, but that it might be more useful for myself and for others if I spoke more on topics where I don't really know a lot about it. I'm not as intelligent. It doesn't feel like I'm making progress. You know, to make a video like this, which is a little more psychologically oriented, and that's ultimately what I'd like to be known for. When I die, I don't want to be known for a guy who had hot political takes. I think that's sad. I think that's pathetic. And that's just the way it is. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, people say, oh, well, don't be so harsh on yourself. But there's a lot of harshness going around, and sometimes you got to be harsh on harshness. And when I'm political, I realize I have discussions with people, I have debates with people, and I make people feel humiliated because in the political realm, I'm smarter than people, and I run circles around them, and they feel bad. Is that the purpose of life? Is me beating up on people who are younger, less intelligent, less experienced, is that the purpose of life? It draws in a crowd, you know, it gets super chats, it makes money, it makes me feel validated, but is that the purpose of life? Is that a good thing to pursue? I don't think it is. And I want to apologize. I want to apologize, I mean, first and foremost, to myself, to God, and to everyone else, because I've created a kind of gravitational attraction around the idea of being sneaky at politics, being, ooh, I'm really cute and I figured it out and I've squared the circle and I'm running circles around everybody else. And I'm better than everybody else because I'm focused on myself and I'm focused on my own power and I'm focused on my own glory and my own excellence and my own beauty. And we're not talking about God. We're not talking about God enough. We're not putting it up to the highest. And I always say, like, oh, well, I don't want to invoke God because that's going to turn people away and people are going to be put off by that and people aren't going to want to listen to me. And if I keep it secular, if I keep it materialist, I'm going to have more viewers. It's going to be an argument that appeals. Because if you're secular, you can appeal to secular people and religious people. Everyone will listen to a secular message. When you invoke God, the secular people shut off and only the religious people listen, and then the religious people have a particular idea of God, and they say, well, actually, God is like this, and yeah, you talk about God a lot, but actually, you know, if you don't believe in John Calvin, then, you know, actually, you're going to hell. So you know, keeping it secular really is the most ecumenical way to do things, but it's difficult to talk about just love in the abstract because people think that self-love is possible when it's just not. It's just not true. And if you believe in self-love, you're completely confused. You're in complete deception. You know, whereas when you talk about God, it's very clear that serving God is not the same thing as serving yourself. Loving God is not the same thing as loving yourself. These are confusing because we use the terms love and God in different ways. None of these terms, none of these words, they're big, right? And there's so many different ways to interpret them, and that's where confusion comes in, and that's where people have disagreements. And you know, I do want to love people. In some ways, intelligence is a curse because everything becomes a rational exercise. I'm very good at critiquing. I'm very good at deconstructing. And I can just run around critiquing and deconstructing all day. You know, that doesn't build love. That doesn't build friendship. That doesn't build community. That, you know, other people have described this better than I do. And basically where if you just have a community on 4chan where you're just constantly pushing boundaries, breaking taboos, saying new things, being quirky, being weird, being interesting, it attracts a lot of people. There's a lot of people who are followers of that. There are a lot of people who are participators in that, but it's not a community, and it's not love, and it's not friendship, and it's not service. It's a perversion of all those things. It's kind of like, you know, snakes in a pile mating with each other. It's Dionysian, it's Chthonian, and people love it. I mean, it's like bread and circuses. It's like a gladiator match. People are attracted to it. It's violent. It's violent to see two men argue with each other and BTFO each other. But, you know, you're not really building anything off of that, and it can just disappear tomorrow. It's not sustainable, it's not healthy, it's a distraction, it's a simulacra. It is all masculine energy, and there's no care, and there's no gentleness, and there's no, you know, so this is the conflict that I have within me, because I know that I can continue to grow the YouTube channel, that I can continue to, you know, put out a video, and next time I'll get 10,000 views, and the next time I'll get 20,000 views, and we'll continue to expand our reach, and we'll continue to do that. And I can do that because I have this political talent. I have this talent for thinking about politics. And again, even the word politics is way more expansive, and I've made a lot of videos about defining politics. What is politics? I've made videos about what is God, what is politics. I should make a video, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. No more. This is kind of that video, what is love? I think that's what we'll title it. Thanks for listening. If you want a video chat on Twitter, it's at Jokkull, Jokkull. At this point, and I think I've made this point in this video, but if you didn't understand, I can't spend an infinite amount of time on text-based commenters. And if I had a YouTube channel with 20 subscribers, you know, I could give everybody their 5 minutes or something, and I can't do that. And so the only people I can dedicate my time to, I have to have a cutoff, because there's a lot of insane, sick people out there who need help, and I want to help people, but I have to help people from a position of authority, because, you know, I ultimately can't help people unless they're willing to accept that help and do something for that help. And no one's willing to accept something from someone who's lower than, no one accepts help from someone who they truly think is below them. Like, you know, you don't accept help from a homeless person. A homeless person comes up and says, "Hey man, you look like you're down on your luck." You get offended. Whereas if you do that to a homeless person, they're like, "Yeah man, could you help out?" So, you know, even though it doesn't mean that I'm better than other people, it just means that the way that if I am to help people, people have to respect my time, and they have to trust me. And if you don't trust me with your face, if you think I'm a federal informant, I mean, if you have beliefs that are really toxic that would get you in trouble with the federal government, you know, I question if you've watched my videos. I question if you understand where I'm coming from, because that's not what I'm about. But you know, if you don't trust me and you're not willing to give me your time, and you're not willing to talk face to face, then I just can't do that. Emotionally, it's very draining to talk with people text-based who are rude to me, disrespectful, take up my time. They don't get it. There's a lot of autism. People are not picking up social cues. They're not understanding. what's going on. So that's why I guess we're going to have a 2-minute video at the end of every video explaining why that policy exists. If you leave a YouTube comment, it will be approved in 60 days. I try to read all the comments. I try to look through all the comments. If it's an important comment, it will be important the day that you write it, the day that you publish it, and 60 days from now when I approve it. If it's not an important, then it's not an emergency. You can wait 60 days. It doesn't matter either way. The email address, if you don't have a Twitter account and you want to, write me an essay about your life, a 5-paragraph essay, I'll respond with a couple sentences. That's Deep Left Jockle. So the Twitter is Jockle, Jokkull. The email is deepleftjockle with 1 L, Jokkull @gmail.com. I think it's a fair criticism, accusations of narcissism and arrogance and thinking I'm better than other people. Those are valid criticisms, and I think humility is something I have to continually return to. It's a continual struggle for me to see the value of that and to return to that and to reassess and to not, smell my own body odor too much and get hyped up on my own fumes. But at the same time, it's extremely emotionally draining to deal with people on the basis of this is free. I do this for free, and I'm spending hours and hours and hours every week trying to help people for free, and I don't ask for money. When I have a Patreon and I'm asking for money, at that point, sure, you can treat me like crap. You can treat, we're all just equals here, whatever. That's fair. But, until that point, I have to have some way to limit and to protect myself and to conserve my energy because I have a limited amount and I can't just use it any which way and I can't use it for anybody. I have to have some kind of limiting principle, and those limiting principles are, there are limited channels by which to get in contact with me, and there's a funneling process, and it's not a free-for-all, and I'm not going to be on a live stream for 5 hours every day getting picked apart and getting challenged and getting into nasty, petty ad hominem with people, picking apart my personal life or whatever. I don't have the tolerance. Maybe a stronger man than I. Maybe you could do that, dear viewer. Maybe you could do that. I'd invite you to try. I'd invite you to start a public YouTube channel, travel across the country, and do all these things. And I'm sure a lot of people could do that, and they've got better things to do, right? They've got a wife, they got a job, they've got kids, and they can't do that. It's not saying I'm better than other people. It's just saying, I have limitations, and, I'd appreciate if people respected those limitations and respected my beliefs. The things that I say on this channel, I try to be as honest as possible. I do try to be transparent to the extent that I can be. And to assume that I believe things that I don't, that I'm secretly a Nazi, or that I'm secretly a nationalist, or that I'm actually, I guess I will take upon the label of subversive, right? But I think people should take me at my word, and that's what I'd ask. I can't force people to do that, but I would ask people to really listen to the words I say and take them as they are, rather than inferring constantly that I mean something else. That doesn't mean, like with the parables of Jesus, of course, he's not saying things literally all the time, and I don't always say things literally or explicitly, but it's in the same vein, right? And it's not, yeah. Anyway, that's it. See you next time. Bye-bye.